Okay, so today we are checking out the NewBeeDrone Savagebee Pusher. This 2S drone is equipped with the DJI O3 system, an integrated ELRS receiver, and it even has a GPS built in on the back. So in this video, I will show you how to bind the Savagebee to your ELRS radio. We're going to set everything up in Betaflight. We're going to connect to the DJI goggles too. And finally, we'll test flight the Savagebee together. And at the end, you decide if this drone deserves a spot in your collection. All right, let's get going. All right, so let's kick things off by binding the Savagebee Pusher to our ELRS radio. So if you are an experienced pilot or you're already familiar with the entire process, just feel free to skip and head to the flight test section using the timestamp below. All right, so for you that needs help with the setup, let's talk about the binding rules for ELRS. So you're gonna need to make sure both your radio and your drone are running the same version of ELRS firmware. They should be either both on 2.x ELRS or both on 3.x ELRS. Since the Savagebee is shipping with a ELRS 3.0 by default, your radio needs to be on the 3.x version as well. So it can be 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. It doesn't matter as long as it starts with the 3. So my radio is currently on 3.5 ELRS firmware, so I know it is going to be compatible. So if you're unsure about the ELRS firmware on your radio, or if you need to flash it, there is a detailed guide down below at the description to show you how to do it step by step. All right, so with the general ELRS binding rule out of the way, next let's talk about the binding methods. Since the Savagebee has a serial-based ELRS RX, so which means it's UR based, you have two options to bind. So the first one is going to be the plug and unplug 3 times method. This is going to be the cheat method and the easiest method, but not recommended for the long run. The second one is going to be the binding phrase method. This is more recommended. It's going to take a little bit more time for you to learn this, but once you get it, it's going to be so easy in the future. So let me demo the plug and unplug method if you just wanted to get it started quickly. So first thing, we're going to have to power on our radio. Okay, make sure all the switches are original. Okay, so you're going to go to the system. If you have an HTX radio, it should all be the same. Probably a different interface, but you just have to press the system button and you're just basically going to go into the ELRS Lua script. And then, let me just turn model matching off. And then we're going to switch, you're basically going to use the scroller button to switch the cursor to the bind section. And then what you're going to be doing at your drone side is we are basically going to be plugging and unplug the drone very fast 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and the 4th, plug it in. So theoretically, this should bring the drone into the binding mode. So you can just basically press the bind right here. If everything is set up correctly, you should be able to get this bind. So basically, this is how the plug and unplug method works. But since I have a binding phrase set up, so I think it's better to use that to show you. The second method is going to be the binding phrase method. And let me explain how it works. So the binding phrase method is basically you are required to set up a series of code like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or the A, B, C, D, E, F, G on both devices. So after you set up the phrase, basically it's the same phrase on both devices, once you power up both your radio and your drone, they're just going to be binding automatically together. And since my radio, it's already set up with the binding phrase 654321, so we will just need to be setting up the same code on the Savagebee receiver. So if you don't know how to set up the binding phrase for your radio, there is also going to be a detailed link down below for a step-by-step guide. All right, so to set up the Savagebee binding phrase, we're actually going to be moving to our PC so I can show you how it was done. That's still the easiest method. Okay, so to get the Savagebee binding phrase set up, we're actually going to be coming to our computer. You're going to be plugging in a micro USB cable. And then basically the receiver should be powered on. So basically what we are waiting right now is we're just waiting for the receiver to go into Wi-Fi mode. So this is the default for ELRS receiver. After you powered it on, about in 30 seconds, it's going to automatically go into Wi-Fi mode if it's a UR based or serial based ELRS receiver. And we will be able to update it via Wi-Fi, and that's still the easiest method. Okay, so after about 30 seconds, we're going to be switching our view to the computer. So you're going to go to your Wi-Fi icon, and you should be able to see a ELRS option popping out like that. So sometimes the signal may be very weak, but it's fine. Just as long as it connects, it's going to be okay. After you have basically connected to the ExpressLS Wi-Fi, what we're waiting for is this web page to be popping out. So this web page is whatever you can set up. You can basically see what firmware is on this thing, and you can basically set up the binding phrase, and if you wanted to set up most of the stuff you need to do. So to set up a binding phrase is going to be very simple if you have this web page popping out. So if the web page doesn't come out, you're just going to have to come in to basically type in this basically web address in your browser, and it's basically going to do the exact same thing. So what we're going to do, binding phrase right here. Our radio has 654321, so we're going to set up the exact binding phrase for this drone. So we're just going to hit, after you have entered it, you're just going to hit save. All right, so reboot. All right, so once you have rebooted, this binding phrase should have been set up already, and you can see that the light is glowing like solid, slow again. And this time we're actually going to be bringing out a radio so we can also test, just to test the connection function. The next step, we are going to be going into Betaflight. So you can see that right now the light actually turns solid. So this is an indication that it has been bounded together already. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go into the Betaflight, just make sure everything is connected. If you don't know where Betaflight is and need to download it, the link is going to be down below, so you can just go download it and install it. So since this is a bind and fly drone, there's not going to be a lot of stuff that you are required to be set up. So all the ports, all the configuration, it should have been enabled for you. So there is not a lot of stuff that you are required to do. But the first thing, we're always going to go to the receiver tab, is we just wanted to make sure that we are actually getting any stick inputs, because if we are not getting any stick inputs, it's going to be pointless. So you wanted to make sure that your throttle is throttle, your yaw is yaw, pitch is pitch, and roll is roll. So you can see that the icon on the screen is turning correctly, which this is a good thing. So after you got this confirmed, the next step, we're going to go into the modes tab. So at the modes tab, what we are basically going to be doing is we are just going to want to make sure that our aux switches are set up correctly. So you wanted to make sure that when your arm switch is going to arm the quad, it's not going to change the mode or something. So if this is a general radio that you just bought from like any manufacturer, the default arm switch should always be this one. This is going to be the aux 1. So if you just wanted to adjust yourself, you can just put this on auto, and then you can flip it, and you can see that it automatically adjusts to aux 1. And what we're trying to do here is we wanted to make sure the little dot is going to be falling into the bars, and that's an indication that it's going to be activated. So it's just a switch function. So the second is going to be our mode. So the mode switch is going to be this one. This is going to be the default aux 2. So the aux 2 is basically going to give you the option to, oops, why is it like that? Okay, so sometimes you have to flip it just so it works. So aux 2 is going to be the bottom. Angle is going to be the bottom, at the bottom section, and we flip it to the middle, it's going to go to horizon. Under the top is going to be your acro. All right, so the next important switches, I think this is going to be my number 3 switches, but let me just double check. So, okay, so my beeper, I will want it to be right here. So this is why sometimes you have to come into the modes tab to set up, because sometimes we have different switch configurations. So this is going to activate the beeper. So when you activate the beeper, it's just going to start beep on you. Okay, so there's actually flip over crash, but I don't think I have additional switch set up. Let me just double check if I have anything. So this one, no. This one, no. This one, maybe. No, this one, no. Okay, so for me personally, I will have to disable the flip over crash just for now, because I don't have enough switches set up, but we can do that later on. So the important thing is going to be the GPS rescue. So GPS rescue, we wanted to make sure this one is going to be aux 4. My aux 4 is going to be this switch. It can be anything, but if you're just not sure, change it to auto and then flip the switch. So you can see that when I flip it on the top, it's going to activate GPS rescue. And once this has been completed, all you need to do is hit save. Okay, and since this is a quad that has GPS, we are going to come to the GPS section to make sure we set it up correctly. Okay, so at the GPS configuration tab is we want to set up the home point just once. Okay, so the setup home point once is my habit. I like it to be when you basically the first power on in the same location is going to only set home point once. So it's not going to, like when you're flying in the middle and if you disarm and then you like kind of arm it again, like somewhere in the middle, it's basically going to reset the home point right there. So this is something that you probably wanted to click and just basically use the whatever that opens everything. All right, so this is correct. This is basically my regular setting. You can decide whatever you like. And then let's go back to the failsafe tab. So the failsafe tab is going to be something that you wanted to pay attention is, okay, so if you want to have GPS enabled, you will have to basically set the drone right at the location that you wanted to fly. It's going to take a while to search for GPS, and then finally it is going to be able to lock. So you need at least 4 satellites to kind of like give you actually the minimum satellites right here is set to 8, so we're just going to set it to 5. What we're trying to do here is because if the minimum satellite is a little bit too high, you're not going to be able to, if you don't hit minimum 5, it's not going to let you take off because the GPS function is not going to be working. And when you flip the switch, it's just going to drop. So that's something that you have to pay attention. And another thing is this button right here. So if you want GPS rescue, you will have to disable this one because this switch basically allows the quad to arm, basically the propeller starts spinning without having a solid GPS lock. So if you want GPS, make sure you disable this one. But if you just wanted to fly around you and GPS is nothing that you're going to be paying attention of, then it's okay to put it on right here. Okay. So for me right now, since we are going to be testing the GPS, let me just actually enable for now. Actually, let me disable so we can basically test to see if the motor spins whatsoever. All right, so the setup is basically complete at this moment. Let's go back to our bench. We're just basically going to be testing to see if the motor actually spins on this one when we are like plugging a lipo. And also I'm going to show you how to install the propeller because pusher configurations are going to be different. All right, see you there. All right, so we're back to the bench and we're basically just going to be plugging in a lipo just to see if we can actually see the motor spins. So you can see that we have connected back, and if you flip a switch, flip the arm switch, the motor should spin right now. Let's do it. Okay, so this is a good indication that everything is set up fine, everything is fine. All right, so the next step, since the Savagebee is going to be a pusher format, you will need to ensure that your propellers are installed correctly. So all propellers, basically you can see a propeller right here, they're always going to have a top side and a bottom side. Top side, and a bottom side. The rule of thumb is that the top side of the prop should always be facing upwards toward the sky, regardless of whether the motor is facing up or is going to be facing down. And you can see that the Savagebee has the motor facing down, but your propellers, the upside has to be pointing toward the sky. Okay, so make sure that is correct. So once you know this, we're just going to be bringing out the little manual that came with the Savagebee. So you can see that they are actually telling you that how this is going to be installed. So let me see that. So the propeller direction, probably just look at this one, and you can kind of like see that this is going to be that one. So we're just basically going to be installing it like that. So this is going to be spinning like this, and because it's a pusher format, so it's kind of also props in a sense. Okay. And the second one, it's going to be the opposite, and you're going to make sure to just always put it on the one facing up. Okay, so the same one is going to be that one. Okay, so no, actually upside down. All right, so this one is always going to be same as this one. So this one goes here. Okay, and the last one, that one is going to be same as this one. So make sure your side is correct. This is wrong. This is also wrong. Yeah, this is right. Okay, I'm just going to push it in like this. And okay, so basically this is the hardest part to just decide whether like where you should put it. And the next step, you just have to make sure you're going to screw it in. I'm just not going to do it because it's going to take too much time. It's going to be too boring. But just make sure you screw the screws into it to secure the props. All right, so before we actually go on to test flight this little quad, I just realized I forgot to show you how to like activate the air unit and connect the air unit to the goggles. So let's switch back to the PC so I can give you a quick demo. Okay, so we're back to the PC bench, and this time you're required to power up your drone like completely, otherwise the air unit is not going to work. So you're gonna have to plug in a lipo completely. And then just make sure you don't plug in something bigger than 2S, okay? Otherwise you're gonna probably fry the board. And then since the air unit is gonna be powered on, just bring in a little fan that it's going to blow out the VTX so it does not overheat. And then what you're going to have to do is you're going to bring out a USB-C cable, connect the other side to your computer, and you are basically going to be plugging into the port right here. So this is going to be the USB-C cable, USB plug for the O3 air unit. Okay, so the next step, we're switching to the computer. So at our computer side, you're basically going to go to the DJI Assistant 2. Just double click it, open it. So this is a step that you are required to do on all the DJI Air units, at least for now. If you're just receiving it in the first time, you will have to activate it. So you will have to register your own, like basically your own list, and basically it's going to ask you to start activation. So yeah, this is my account, confirm your account. Okay, so since everything is successful, this is just basically how you do it. Okay, so do I need to update to the latest version? Let me double check. So this software is also where you're supposed to update all your like stuff and whatever that is required you to like. If you need to update anything, just go to this software. Okay, let me just double check to make sure that I don't have to update to the newest firmware, because I know that. Release note, add support DJI goes in. I think this one is the one. Okay, so since I don't have a goggles 3 and the remote control 3, I'm not going to upgrade since like right now is good. Okay, so basically that's about it for the activation. Very simple, but it's just something extra step that you have to do. So we can basically unplug it right now. Plug everything. Okay, so we're coming back to the bench again, and this time we're actually you're going to bring out your goggles as well. Make sure your goggles is powered on and switch to the DJI O3 basically function. And then you're basically going to plug in this lipo this time. You have to do it. Okay, and then what we are actually going to be doing is, although I already mounted this one already, but I'm just going to show you, there's going to be a little tiny bind button right here. You have to press it with a little tweezer, so basically just press it like that. You can see that it's basically going into the bind mode, like flashing like a slow rapid speed. And then at the goggles side, you're basically going to do the same thing by pressing the bind button. So as long as you have the correct firmware that matches, you can see that we're actually getting footage. So this is how you set this up. All right, so finally, let's head to the field. Let's go test flight this thing. Alright, so switching the scene to my front yard, we're basically going to be test flying the Savagebee for the first time. And we're also going to be test flying the GPS function to see if it actually works. As for the battery wise, we will be using these Tattu 850 high volt 2S batteries. These are also provided by NewBeeDrones, and I think NewBeeDrone is probably one of the like stores that you can in the US that you can get these high volt lipos. So okay, so based on these lipos, we probably should get around basically 5 minutes ish flight time. So let's basically also test that out. All right, let's plug it in so the GPS can actually search for the satellites. It's probably going to take about 5 minutes. I already like pre-plugged that in, so it kind of like already found some satellites, and like so this time should be a little bit quicker. All right, let's plug it in and let's give it a go. Okay, so we're basically, after about 5 minutes, we're able to get about 14 satellites, which is going to be very good for our like GPS rescue accuracy. So the minimum one we're going to require is actually 5. So right now, since it's 14, it's going to give us better results. So basically the footage you're seeing right now is coming out from the DJI Goggles 2 TVR. So yeah, this is going to be a lower resolution compared to like on the whatever you have on the SD card, but I just wanted to show you as best as I can, like how does it feel when you're flying behind the quad. So yeah, this is definitely the thing that is going to be much better compared to like analog. DJI is just currently still something that is pretty decent on the market right now, I would say. And additionally, let me see. So additionally, I would say the thing that you will notice right away is that the tuning is pretty decent, like kind of like expected for like all NewBeeDrone quads, because they did spend a lot of time and effort on their quad tuning. So it's going to be very good to like be a very nice like direct auto box experience that you don't have to tweak a lot of stuff, and it's just going to fly some sort of like okay, in a sense that you're not going to be like suffering like, hey, like why is this like shaky, what is this like not doing what I wanted to do. So this is very essential, like even for pros, because like if you don't have a nice tuning, if the quad is just doing something your stick is not asking it to do, then you're gonna have a problem in a sense, because like when you're filming, you want it to make sure that everything is smooth. You don't want shaky footage, that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely something that it's worth it to be considered for NewBeeDrone. And yeah, I've I haven't like actually gone into like O3 like completely, but you can see that this camera definitely is something that is a different level compared to the analogs and the Vistas. Yeah, this is like okay if you wanted to just use it for like general like small client work. Definitely is no problem. And the second thing you'll probably notice is something I care a lot is you are still going to see props in the frame, but I think it's going to be okay because it's only just a little bit instead of like you can, and only when you're turning. So I think this is because like of the higher wide angle of the quad. So you can see that when I'm turning, you can see that the props is going to be appearing on the side. But since like you will be able to use gyro flow to kind of like fix it in the sense, so it should be okay. So when you post it, when you like post produce it, it's going to be gone. So I think that's good enough. And I think this is also a reason why NewBeeDrone decided to do this quad using like a pusher format, because when you're actually doing like pushers, you will be able to like kind of separate the props with the camera. Like the propellers are going to be facing down, and you can use like bigger propellers to replace like a really tight propeller, or you might even have to like the previous generation, like they kind of like put the camera so like straight out there, kind of like a crane, you know. So yeah, that's kind of like looks like it may not have like a really good center of gravity, but this one I think they're trying to address the issue that everything is going to be a true X and the center of gravity is going to be fine. You can see that it's not going to feel like you are like suffering a lot of like stuff. All right, so next let's basically go test out the GPS before my battery juice drain. So I need like at least 15 meters to like get the setting working. So basically what you have to do is make sure you have enough place to do that, and then you're going to flip the switch. You can see that we're basically right now letting go of the switches. So what the GPS is going to be doing is it's going to be picking up the altitude first. Okay, but just let me actually pick it up because I don't have enough distance for the flight. But you can see that the GPS is actually trying to like pick up distance, like pick up the altitude first, and then trying to come back to the like destination landing location. It's not like super accurate in the beta flights at the moment, but at least it's going to be something that kind of sort of like be able to help you like at least get the quad back, you know. So sometimes the 5 second or 6 second it's all you need to like regain your footage or regain your control. So that's something that is very, very valuable in a sense to me, that even for like such a small quad, having a GPS sometimes it does have a peace of mind, like you do have an extra like fail-safe insurance. Yeah, so we're kind of like running out of juice, so we do actually got about 4 minutes of flight time. It's not bad at all. So yeah, but I think we can run it down a little bit lower, just so since it's should be complete okay, because like I think it took a lot of like power to like pull up the GPS and that sort of thing. So next it's about the acro ability. So this one I would say definitely for the regular acros it's going to be just no problem. can see that even like with like a low battery right now, you can still do like regular flips and rolls without any problem. But sometimes something you just have to probably pay attention is that you are running like bi-blades. Bi-blades is going to be a little bit longer, like you will basically be able to get better efficiency, better flight times, but you are going to be expecting that these are going to take a little bit longer to respond, because essentially you are using like a smaller motor to spin up like a bigger wing, and it's just going to take some delays for your pull-up. So just make sure you have enough enough time to like recover. So that's about it, I think, for the first impression flight. So let's actually bring this down. So another thing about like those kind of pusher format is you wanted to make sure that you come in like, okay, so sorry, I just forgot that when you actually hit the kills, like basically when you like disarm, the quad is going to like pause recording, and I was like focusing on like the landing. So basically what I was trying to say is, when you have those kind of pusher format quads, your props are facing down, so you wanted to, when you're landing, you wanted to come in like a basically some sort of level angle, otherwise you're going to have to chip your prop, and that's going to be something you probably don't want it to do. So yeah, something that just to pay attention of. Okay, I think it's just dying. Right, so I think I just accidentally ran the battery too low, resulting it to like die on me, because like when you have not sufficient voltage, the O3 system is just going to be shutting down. So for basically, I think that's about it for the first impression flight. There's not a lot I can just say right out of the bat, because I'm still not familiar with this quad yet, but you can see that generally the performance, everything seems to be quite okay at the moment. And this video is also just a dedication for like a setup tutorial mainly. So we're just testing the function to make sure everything works. As for the performance, we'll probably release in the next video as a review, because that is going to be, will allow us to dive in a little bit more detail in order to make sure that we cover most of the stuff that you wanted to know. So overall, I would say this is still a pretty like interesting quad. Probably I would say that's worth it probably on your bench if you're trying to do like really live filming, like you wanted to chase car or something, you want something that is a little bit better performance, like has a better performance like kind of ratio or something, then probably this is not bad, because you could, when everything is not ducted, you do get additional performance out from the things that you're trying to do. Anyway, so if you wanted to check out the Savagebee, links are going to be down below. And since right now is Black Friday, you might be able to actually get additional benefits out from the purchase. Alright, so any questions or comments, please feel free to leave it down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.